Good morning, good afternoon. This is Deb Coviello. I am with the USWCA Women's Curling Association, and I have the honor of interviewing amazing women as part of our 75th anniversary celebration. So, with me today is Diane Firari. Welcome to the conversation, Diane.
Thank you.
So let's just open this up. This is our first time really conversing with each other, but we agreed, let's just go right to the interview. I would love to know more about how did you get into curling?
Well, as I started to tell you, I got into curling in order to get a man to propose to me, and it worked. And I not only loved the man, I loved the game. And it surprised me because the only sport I really enjoyed up to that time was swimming. And it took me a long time before I realized that I wasn't good at fast reaction sports. But with curling, you can consider what you're going to do before you do it. With golf, you can consider how you're going to hit the ball before you swing the club. That makes a huge difference. And I think a lot of people who think they're not good at sports would find that curling is a perfect game for them.
That's amazing, but let's go back to the proposal or getting somebody to propose to you. That's quite interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, I had met my husband to be early in the summer, and our mutual friends were all curlers, and these were relatively new friends to me. And one of the friends, her name was Kay Bogue, and she had curled in several national bonspiels, and she was an excellent curler. And it was Kay who took me out on the ice and showed me how to deliver a stone. And we were good friends, but from the time I curled in my first game and then our first bonspiel with she and her husband, I was totally hooked. I couldn't wait to get on the ice. And we were married and we continued to curl as a couple, and I curled with the women. And as time progressed, I became more involved. And in 1962, uh, I was asked to chair the National Bonspiel, which we had invited to come to Portage. And that's how I went to my first USWCA meeting. And if I was hooked on curling, I was really hooked on the USWCA. I was so impressed with that group of women, and I remain that way. And that was almost 60 years ago.
This is amazing. As you know, we did not prepare for these questions here because I too, a number of years later, only 2 years ago, I am now my USWCA rep for Cincinnati Curling Club. And I too am impressed not only by the character of the women, the sense of community and family, but also the organization of, providing all the policies, all the inner workings, all the systems and processes in order to build the culture and nurturing of women in youth curling. It still exists today after, like you say, 60 some odd years.
Yeah, and we're going on our 75th year. And I can go back and say I actually knew the woman who began the association.
And who
I
was
mean, I
that?
go back a long way. That would have been Bernie Roth.
Okay.
Bernie was the first president of the USWCA.
Okay, because I did not know that. And this is about bringing stories. But if I could maybe just ask you, certainly you're hooked on curling, love it, love the community. But were there any fond memory, a memory that really stuck out in your mind, whether it was in your curling career or with the USWCA that you find really touched you or had an impact on you?
Oh, that's coming out of the blue. I have to think about that a little bit.
Okay,
Um, there's so many.
I know.
My first national bonspiel, I was absolutely shaking in my boots. I really, and I was at the bonspiel in order to find out how to run one. I mean, I had never been to a national bonspiel, and now I'm going to be the chairman of one. So I put together a team and we went to St. Paul, and we ended up in getting to the semifinals. It it was an amazing experience, and I made lifelong friends at that bonspiel. Curling friends don't disappear, I have always said I could go to Seattle and travel across the country if I went like the devil across Idaho and Montana, and I wouldn't have to stay in a hotel.
That is amazing, and I share that experience as well. My 5 and under, my last 5 and under, I wanted to curl in it in the GNCC, and I couldn't get a team together, and I then reached out to multiple clubs in the GNCC. We came together, it was the first time I was skipping, and we made it to the semifinal. Now, we didn't win, but there were life lessons and friends that were made, so I truly share the beauty of this community.
Well,
S
now I have the answer to the question that put me off. I ended up, or I was chosen to go on the Scott Tour in 1986, and you never forget that experience. To go to Scotland on the American team is just beyond description. It's wonderful. And then I was fortunate enough to chair the incoming tour 5 years later. So I renewed a lot of those friendships, and they too remain intact. It's an incredible association, and it's given me so much. I can't begin to describe how much I've gotten from the USWCA.
So, as we think about people that are new to the organization, new to curling, and may not know about the richness of the USWC, are there some thoughts that you would share for newer members or newer people to think about being part of this organization?
Well, I would suggest to newer members to find out who your USWCA representative is. Talk to her about what she's doing, what's going on. Um, find out if there's any way you can get involved at the club level. That's the best advice I could give you. Get involved in the All American, which is USWCA sponsored. Get involved in, as you say, the 5 year and under, which is wonderful. Um, get involved. That's my best piece of advice to any new curler.
So I'm going to hit you with another question. We didn't prepare for this, but obviously you have a lot of experience and wisdom. You've seen what has worked and maybe what hasn't worked. If you were to project forward for the current leadership in USWCA or future leadership, are there things that, one, we should continue to do, and two, maybe change?
Oh, that takes some thinking. I think we're on a good path.
Hmm.
I think the structure of the USWCA, as it has been in the past, is a good structure.
Hmm.
The the people who volunteer and end up becoming officers have been wonderful. I can't say we have ever had a poor president. We've been very fortunate in our choices. I hope that continues, and I have no doubt, knowing what's down the road, that it will. Um, these women are just amazing, and their dedication is terrific. I don't know if that's answered your question or
No, it
not.
does because I experience it as a newer member, a newer curler. I've only been curling about 12 years. That sometimes, like it's almost like a business, shared values. Shared values aligns all of us, even with our different personalities and experiences and rich cultures. Maybe that's what brings us together. And as you say, we've never had a bad president. And we wouldn't change very much because it seems to be working. And I think a lot of people can learn a lesson for the love of curling, the sportsmanship, the community, and enriching the future is just a beautiful, purposeful mission. Anything we
Well,
should
right
change? Go ahead. Yeah.
after all these years, I'm still active. I'm on the reference committee, which is a committee. Oh, that's another story. I was a reference chairman back it would have been in the 60s. And the reference file was in my house. It had come from out of Boston. And I stored it in my attic, and I decided that was not a safe place for it. So I talked to the people at the bank, and they had a fireproof room where we could keep it. Wonderful. We put it there. Now, this was a great big hope chest of a box of wonderful stuff. I went to the bank to get some material to take to a board meeting in Chicago. And the box wasn't where it was supposed to be. They said, oh no, we've moved it because we're doing some remodeling. It's up here on a shelf. I don't know how they did that. It was a heavy box. And I said, okay, can somebody get it down for me? And one of the bank people did. It was empty. Everything had been taken from it and we never found the contents.
That's a
It
sad
was,
story.
it's a very sad story, except the board, I went to that board meeting with my knees knocking and announced that the reference file no longer exists, except I had kept some really key pieces of material at home. And those were the pieces that would have really been hard to replace, like the very first minutes of the meetings. So, and that was just sheer luck. We never found the material. We have no idea why it was taken, but board members replaced most of it over a period of time. I mean, they had kept things and saved things and, you know, brought it back to us. And so we actually put that file back together.
That's a beautiful story. Again, in I would say that's a mini crisis because we were losing our heritage, our rich culture, and then people coming together to replace it. Again, people coming
Well,
together.
right now I'm working on the 75th anniversary book. And we did we did a 50th, we did a 60th, which wasn't published widely. It was done just to bring the material together so that the 75th wouldn't be so overwhelming. So I'm almost finished with putting all the material in that, and we'll be getting that printed and put it on sale.
We're
And
s-
we're doing a fabulous anniversary pin. It's just gorgeous. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, I am so excited that I have the opportunity to be part of the 75th celebration and to speak to somebody that was nominated as somebody that has that rich heritage, and I should capture some of their stories as part of the celebration. So as we bring this to a close, and I'm grateful for this. Are there any thoughts that you want to share with curlers now, curlers in the future of the USWCA?
I guess my main thought right at the moment is don't let COVID affect your curling down the road. I wouldn't, I mean, physically, I'm not curling anymore. If I were, I wouldn't be on the ice today. But I would plan on being on the ice as soon as clubs open up for normal curling. And I anticipate that by next year, we should be able to do that. I pray we can do that.
I think
And
we all do.
I agree. I think it's important, but I don't want to see, especially new curlers, turn to something else because I think this is a game it's a lifetime game. And not many people can say that about the sports that they love. I think golf is another one. But there was a curler in Portage who didn't stop curling until he was 99 years old and he was still making shots. So there you have it.
Amazing stories, Diane. I am grateful for having the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you.
Well, I've
Um,
enjoyed it.
Congratulations on an amazing curling career, contributions, continued contributions, and being part of this 75th celebration.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Stop.